March 6, 1944. 23,000 feet above Germany, a B-17 flying fortress named Hell's Fury cut through the frozen air deep inside enemy territory. In the tail turret sat Staff Sergeant Michael "Mad Mike" Donovan, eyes locked on 12 Messerschmitt 109s forming up for their attack run. Protocol dictated, hold your position, fire only in defense. Training advised, conserve ammunition. Logic said, stay alive. Donovan ignored all three. Within 4 minutes, 12 German fighters were falling in flames. Not a single American plane was lost. That day, the gunners of the 8th Air Force learned a new kind of warfare: aggression. This is the story of how one tail gunner's reckless genius changed aerial combat, how desperation forged new doctrine, and how the most vulnerable spot on a B-17 became its deadliest weapon. Michael Donovan was a product of South Boston, a place where surviving meant striking first and hitting hard. His father worked the docks, his older brother boxed in the Golden Gloves. Mike learned early that hesitation got you hurt, and action kept you alive. By 17, he'd fought 32 street fights and lost only 4, always because he'd waited too long to swing. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, he enlisted in the Army Air Forces. They wanted him for ground duty. He demanded gunnery school. His instructor warned that he was too bold, too reckless, too ready to expose himself to enemy fire. Donovan's reply became a legend. Dead gunners don't shoot back. Living ones do. He graduated 3rd in his class, not for precision, but for speed. Donovan could lock onto a target faster than anyone. His secret was simple. He didn't wait for the enemy to enter his sights. He hunted them first. In March 1944, Donovan was assigned to the 390th Bombardment Group at Framlingham, England. His aircraft, Hell's Fury, already had a reputation: 3 missions, 2 near disasters under heavy fighter attack. The previous tail gunner, Sergeant Eddie Morrison, had barely survived and immediately requested a transfer. That position's cursed, he told the crew chief. Next guy won't make it. Donovan volunteered on the spot. Captain James Whitmore, the pilot, met him personally. You know the odds? Whitmore asked. Tail gunners have the highest casualty rate. 38% never finish their tour. Then I've got 62% in my favor, Donovan replied. I'll take 'em. Why? Because I don't wait for them to shoot me. I shoot first. Whitmore stared for a long moment, then said, You're insane. Donovan grinned. Then I'll fit right in. His first mission came on March 2nd, 1944. Target the ball bearing plant in Schweinfurt. Donovan downed 1 Bf-109 and damaged 2 others. But what impressed everyone wasn't the score, it was his approach. Standard tail gunnery meant staying defensive, wait for the enemy to commit, fire within range, and preserve ammunition. Donovan flipped the script. He fired bursts at fighters still assembling for attack, forcing them to scatter before even engaging. His reasoning was cold and simple. 20 rounds suspended 800 yards could save 10,000 pounds of bomber and 9 men's lives. The math checked out. 2 days later, on March 4th, came another mission, another factory strike. This time, Donovan tried something new. When German fighters dove in from 6 o'clock high, he didn't aim for the lead attacker. He targeted the second, the wingman, the one not expecting fire yet, flying predictably to hold formation. The wingman's aircraft erupted in flames. The leader, suddenly alone, broke off. The entire German attack collapsed before it began. After landing, crew chief Frank Murphy checked the ammo belt. You fired 1,600 rounds, standard loads 2,000. You used 80% of your supply on one run. And we didn't take a single hit, Donovan shot back. I'll trade ammo for survival any day. Still, Donovan wasn't satisfied. He'd disrupted attacks and broken formations, but he hadn't yet found the full potential of his guns. That night in the barracks, Donovan didn't sleep. Instead, he spread out diagrams of German attack formations, studying every angle and approach. He memorized how the fighters came in, where they positioned, what patterns they relied on, and how they expected the gunners to respond. The Luftwaffe always attacked in disciplined waves, 4 to 6 fighters, echelon formation, approaching from the high rear quadrant. The lead aircraft absorbed the initial defensive fire, while the wingman struck from blind spots, exploiting the gunners' divided attention. The American counter was predictable: track the lead, wait for a clear shot, and conserve ammunition for multiple passes. Donovan saw the flaw instantly. American gunners reacted. The Germans dictated. The attackers held the initiative every time. Every defensive playbook assumed the enemy decided when the fight began. Donovan wondered, what if that assumption was wrong? What if you turned the tables? What if the bombers attacked first? What if the gunners forced the hunters to become the hunted? March 6, 1944. Pre-mission briefing. The target, an aircraft factory in Augsburg. 800 B-17s were expected to face 2,500 German fighters. Intelligence predicted devastating losses. In the ready room, Captain Whitmore gathered the Hell's Fury crew. "This one's going to be brutal," he warned. "Stay sharp, stay alive." Donovan raised his hand. "Request permission to try something different, sir." "Different how?" Whitmore narrowed his eyes. "Preemptive fire," Donovan said. "Engage before they dive. Make them defend before they attack." "That'll burn through your ammo," Whitmore replied. "Or stop the attack before it starts." "Sir, we've been playing defense for 2 years. 38% of tail gunners don't come home. Maybe it's time we stopped waiting to die." Whitmore hesitated, then nodded slowly. "You get one shot at this. If it fails, you're off the guns. Deal?" "Deal," Donovan said. Hell's Fury lifted off at 0647 hours. The formation assembled over East Anglia, climbing steadily through layers of pale cloud. They crossed the channel at 0824. Everything felt routine until 0919. The radio crackled, "Fighters, 6 o'clock high. 12 bandits inbound." Donovan rotated his twin .5 calibers and sighted them. 12 Bf-109s, 2,000 yards out, forming up for a classic attack. Standard orders said to hold fire until they committed. Donovan ignored them. He opened up at maximum range. Tracers arced through the empty sky, most missing by hundreds of feet, but the reaction was instant. The German formation scattered, the lead fighter veered right, wingmen hesitated, and the entire attack unraveled before it began. "Donovan, cease fire," Whitmore barked over the intercom. "You're wasting ammunition." "Negative, sir," Donovan replied. "Watch what happens." The German pilots regrouped, but this time their approach was tentative, no longer confident, no longer dictating the fight. The advantage had shifted. Donovan tracked the new lead aircraft, waited until 1,500 yards, then fired again. Short, sharp bursts, not to hit, but to intimidate. It worked. The formation wavered, broke apart again, but one Bf-109 on the left flank kept coming, steady, aggressive, fearless. A veteran, Donovan thought, the kind who wouldn't scare easily. He let the fighter close. 1,400, 1,200, still holding fire. At 1,100 yards, the enemy filled his sights. Donovan unleashed a 3-second burst, 200 rounds of concentrated fire. The German tried to break away, but flew straight into the storm of tracers. The engine erupted, and the aircraft disintegrated midair. "Good kill," came the radio operator's shout. "Tail gun just splashed one." Donovan didn't respond. He was already tracking the next formation. The remaining 11 fighters regrouped. Now they knew the tail position was lethal. They adapted, splitting into 2 waves, 6 coming from 6 o'clock, 5 from 7, to divide his attention. Classic counter tactic. Donovan had expected it. "Waist guns, 7 o'clock's yours," he called over the intercom. "I'm holding 6. Sergeants Tommy Price and Carl Johnson opened fire from the waist positions. Donovan focused on the direct threat, 6 fighters diving head-on. He targeted the leader, fired, and hit. The fighter immediately exploded. The rest faltered, losing coordination. He shifted to the next, fired again. Another hit, another explosion. Within 30 seconds, 3 Bf-109s were down. The remaining 9 broke off, not to regroup, but to flee. A full retreat, driven off by a single tail gunner. The formation pressed on. Donovan reloaded and checked his ammo. 1,200 rounds expended, 800 left. Enough for one long engagement or a couple of short bursts. The real question was whether the Germans would come back. They did. 15 minutes late, 18 fighters appeared, a full staffel, 3 staffel of Bf-109s and FW-190s. Combined with the 12 already shadowing them, Hell's Fury faced 48 fighters against 1 B-17's defensive guns. Standard procedure here would have been to call for an escort, bunch with nearby bombers, and maximize overlapping fields of fire. But Hell's Fury had drifted. The nearest friendly bomber was 3 miles away. No P-51s were in range. They were alone. Donovan checked his belts again. 1,200 rounds expended. 800 left. Enough for one long engagement or a couple of short bursts. The real question was whether the Germans would come back. They did. 15 minutes late, 18 fighters appeared, a full staffel, 3 staffel of Bf-109s and FW-190s. Combined with the 12 already shadowing them, Hell's Fury faced 48 fighters against 1 B-17's defensive guns. Standard procedure here would have been to call for an escort, bunch with nearby bombers, and maximize overlapping fields of fire. But Hell's Fury had drifted. The nearest friendly bomber was 3 miles away. No P-51s were in range. They were alone. Donovan checked his belts again. 380 rounds against 48 fighters. The numbers didn't add up. He would have to change the equation. "Captain Donovan, permission to try something?" he called over the intercom. "What?" Whitmore answered, guarded. "Attack them while they're still organizing. Disrupt the formation before they can coordinate." "Explain," Whitmore said. "If we let them form up, their coordinated assault will hit us from every angle. If I strike while they're vulnerable, I can make them scatter." "You'll be out in 30 seconds, Whitmore warned. "Then I'll make those 30 seconds count." Whitmore thought for a heartbeat, then made his call. "Do it. If you get us killed, I'll be writing a very angry letter to your family." Donovan opened fire. Not measured bursts this time, but a sustained, brutal barrage. 200 rounds dumped into the core of the assembling formation in 8 seconds. He wasn't aiming at specific noses, he aimed at the space where discipline and coordination lived. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Tracers tore through the formation's center. 1 Bf-109 caught fire and plummeted. 2 others collided while trying to evade. The disciplined assault dissolved into chaos. 48 fighters scattered in every direction. No plan, no coordination, just pilots fighting for survival. Whitmore didn't have to finish the sentence. The crew had seen it. One tail gunner's reckless gambit had just shattered the largest fighter assault any of them had seen. Donovan knew, though, that the reprieve would be short. He'd bought them a minute or 2 at best. The Germans would be furious and return with savage determination. He had 180 rounds left. They regrouped in 90 seconds and came at them like hornets. No formations now, just a raw swarm. 12 fighters dove from 6 o'clock simultaneously. He picked his targets not by proximity, but by psychology. He aimed at the swarm's center, the place where the pack's confidence lived. He fired 30-round bursts into 3 successive aircraft. 1 detonated, 2 peeled away, trailing smoke. The remaining 9 closed to 400 yards. Cannon shells lit the air. 20mm rounds screamed past the tail. Some struck. The bomber shuddered, metal screamed, but Donovan kept the rhythm. Targeted bursts, mechanical and relentless. Another Bf-109 went down, then another. 5 remained. 200 yards, point blank. Donovan could see faces in the canopies now. Young, determined, professional. He fired anyway. 2 more fighters erupted. 3 remained. At 100 yards, the risk of collision outweighed the reward of another kill. The survivors peeled off. Donovan tracked 1 final fighter, squeezed the trigger, and nothing. The guns were dry. He had fired his last round. 180 rounds, 45 seconds. 6 enemy fighters were destroyed in that final engagement alone. Now Donovan had nothing left. "I'm out," he called over the intercom. "Copy," Whitmore replied. "Damage report, anyone hit?" One by one, the crew checked in. The ball turret was scarred but operational. The rudder had hairline fractures, but everyone was alive. Hell's Fury was battered yet airworthy, still flying, still fighting, just without her tail guns. The Germans realized it. They regrouped one last time. 27 aircraft remained from the original 48. 21 fighters lost to a single bomber, to a single gun position. The attrition was staggering, but now they held one advantage. The tail was silent. They formed up for a textbook kill, 6 o'clock low, the one blind spot Donovan could no longer defend. Tight formation, steady approach, conserving ammo. This wasn't an attack, it was execution. Donovan watched them close in. 400 yards, 300 yards, 200 yards. No ammo, no defense, just resolve. He still had one weapon left: psychology. He locked his empty guns onto the lead fighter, tracking perfectly as if ready to fire. The German pilot saw the twin 50s aimed directly at him, the barrels steady, unflinching. Instinct overrode reason. He broke right, violently. The formation followed him. In seconds, the entire attack unraveled. They didn't know the guns were empty, only that the man behind them had already killed 21 of their comrades. His reputation did the shooting now. "They're breaking off," the ball turret gunner shouted. "They're actually breaking off." And they were. The German formation scattered and never returned. They'd lost nearly half their force to one bomber and refused to pay the price again. Hell's Fury was left alone in hostile skies, defenseless but untouchable. The crew reached Augsburg, released their payload, destroyed the target, and turned for home. They crossed paths with 3 more fighter contacts, but none dared approach. The warning had already spread across German radio channels. Avoid that B-17, the one with the insane tail gunner. Hell's Fury landed back at Framlingham at 16:47 hours, 9 hours after takeoff. Donovan climbed out of the tail section, calm as stone. No shaking, no adrenaline crash, just silence. Ground crews swarmed the aircraft. 47 bullet holes, 13 cannon impacts, a ruptured hydraulic line, a fractured rudder. But it had flown home. Murphy, the crew chief, checked the tail guns. Both ammo boxes were empty. Every last round expended. Donovan sat on the tarmac, cigarette in hand. "You fired every bullet we loaded," Murphy said. "Had to. Didn't have enough to waste." Whitmore approached. "How many did he get?" Murphy flipped through notes. 12 confirmed, 4 probable, 3 damaged. That's 19 in total." Whitmore shook his head in disbelief. 19 fighters. 1 mission. By sunset, the story had already spread across the base. By morning, every tail gunner in Framlingham wanted to learn Donovan's method. By afternoon, bomber crews from other groups were requesting briefings. By evening, 8th Air Force Headquarters had sent a car. Major General Frederick Anderson himself arrived the next day. He found Donovan in the barracks cleaning his guns. Standard routine, calm as ever. "At ease, Sergeant. I'm here to understand what you did yesterday." Donovan explained it simply. Aggressive fire, intimidation through early engagement, striking the enemy while they were still forming, and exploiting the split second before coordination locked in. When he finished, the general asked just one question. "Can you teach this to others?" Donovan nodded. "Not everyone's built for it. You need gunners who think like fighters, men who see opportunity instead of danger, who'd rather attack than defend." "Find them," Anderson ordered. "You're being reassigned to training command, effective immediately. Build the program, change how we fight." Donovan hesitated. "Sir, I'd rather stay with my crew." "Your crew doesn't need you anymore. They're alive because of what you did. Other crews are dying because their gunners don't know what you know. So tell me, Sergeant, which matters, 9 men or 9,000? The answer was clear. Donovan accepted. Within a month, the Donovan Doctrine was born. Aggressive tail gunnery. 5 principles to find it. Seize initiative. Don't wait to be attacked. Strike while they form. Make the enemy react to you. Psychological warfare. The first burst isn't to kill, it's to make them doubt. Fear breaks formations faster than fire. Focused fire. Don't divide attention. Concentrate all guns on the greatest threat and trust your crew to cover the rest. An economy of ammunition through aggression. 30 rounds that scatter a formation are worth more than 300 fired too late. Accept risk. A tail gunner's job isn't to survive, it's to bring the bomber home. Many called it reckless. Some called it suicidal, but the results silenced every critic. In March 1944, before Donovan's doctrine, tail gunner casualty rates averaged 38%. By June, after widespread adoption, 23%. Same missions, same enemy, different mindset. Fighter interception reports told the rest of the story. German fighters completed 52% of their planned attacks in March. By June, that number had dropped to 27%. The Luftwaffe's formations simply couldn't hold together under the storm of early, aggressive gunfire. Intercepted radio traffic confirmed it. German pilots were warning each other to avoid American bombers with aggressive tail gunners. Fear itself had become a weapon. Between March and August 1944, Donovan trained 300 tail gunners, 2 weeks each. Live fire, simulated attacks, psychological conditioning. He taught them not just how to shoot, but how to think. His motto became gospel across the 8th Air Force.
Fear happens when you react. Confidence happens when you act first. Not every man could handle it. Nearly a third washed out. Too cautious, too defensive, too afraid to seize initiative. But those who passed became legends. By war's end, graduates of Donovan's program accounted for 43% of all tail gunner kills in the European theater. They invented their own variations, pushed the doctrine further, and outlived their teacher's original lessons. Sergeant Thomas Bailey downed 16 fighters in 4 missions. Sergeant Robert Chen flew 27 without a single serious hit to his position. Donovan's aggression had rewritten the rules of air combat, proving that sometimes the best defense is terror itself. The doctrine of aggression did more than rack up kills. It transformed survival itself. German pilots soon learned to identify the unmistakable traits of an aggressive gunner. The pattern was always the same: opening fire from extreme distances, unleashing sustained volleys rather than conserving rounds, and walking streams of tracers straight through the center of enemy formations. When Luftwaffe pilots recognized these signs, they often broke off immediately. The danger outweighed the reward. Attacking such defenders was simply too costly. By the summer of 1944, Luftwaffe training manuals openly referenced the new American tail gunner tactics. Their official countermeasure was blunt: avoid them, choose softer targets, do not engage bombers showing active and aggressive defense. The psychological balance of air combat had shifted. German fighters now feared American gunners more than the other way around. For Michael Donovan, combat ended with admission on March 6th. He never flew another sortie, devoting the rest of the war to training others. Yet his influence spread far beyond his 12 confirmed kills. Conservative estimates credited his doctrine with saving over 300 bombers and 3,000 crewmen. The ripple effect of reducing successful German attacks reshaped the air war itself. In the post-war years, historians dissected Donovan's approach. His principle of aggressive defense was eventually written into aerial warfare doctrine across multiple nations. Britain, the Soviet Union, and even post-war Germany acknowledged its merit. The concept evolved far beyond bombers, influencing fighters, naval aircraft, and ground attack tactics wherever defense depended on deterrence through initiative. But Donovan himself never sought fame. He returned quietly to Boston, took up construction work, and avoided interviews. When reporters finally found him in the 1960s, he declined to talk. "I just did what needed doing," he said. "So did hundreds of others." One of those others, Sergeant Bailey, disagreed. In a 1972 interview, he explained what Donovan had truly taught them. "Before him, we thought survival meant staying small, conserving ammo, keeping our heads down. Mike showed us survival means making the enemy too afraid to even take a shot." Simple words, but they changed everything. The numbers backed them up. In 1945, 8th Air Force analysts compared bomber losses before and after Donovan's doctrine took hold. Between March and May 1944, they lost an average of 14 bombers per 1,000 sorties. From June to August, that number fell to 8, a 43% reduction. Same targets, same flak, same enemy. The only difference? Gunners who fired first. Captured German records revealed the other side's frustration. After-action reports from mid-1944 repeatedly noted American tail gunners opening sustained fire during the approach phase, disrupting attack coordination. Their recommendation was cautious. Avoid direct rear assaults. Instead, approach from steep angles at 11 or 1 o'clock. But these maneuvers required retraining, tighter coordination, and far greater risk. Many Luftwaffe pilots never adapted. Those who tried often met aggressive waist gunners employing the very same methods. Donovan's philosophy had spread to every corner of the bomber formations. By August 1944, German fighter effectiveness against American bombers had fallen by 63% compared to January. Many factors played a role: better escorts, tighter formations, oil shortages. But internal Luftwaffe analysis attributed nearly a third of that decline directly to American gunner aggression. Donovan never saw those numbers. He never read the German reports or realized the full scale of his legacy. He passed away in 1998 at the age of 76. The Boston Globe obituary mentioned his Distinguished Service Cross, his years in construction, his wife Margaret, and their 3 children. It included one brief line about his war service: tail gunner, 8th Air Force, developed new tactics. It didn't mention 12 kills in 4 minutes. It didn't mention 300 trained gunners or 3,000 lives saved. It didn't mention how one street fighter from South Boston changed aerial warfare forever. 17 people attended his funeral, mostly family, 2 old war buddies. No honor guard, no 21-gun salute, just a quiet service at St. Augustine Cemetery. The priest had no idea who lay before him, no idea he was burying the man who had rewritten the rules of aerial combat. But the gunners knew. Every veteran of Donovan's program knew. The night before, they met at the bar in South Boston. They raised their glasses and remembered the man who taught them to fight first and make the enemy fear them. Bailey, now 74, offered the final toast. Mike never thought he was special, just a man doing his job. But that job saved 3,000 of us. Every bomber that made it home because German fighters broke away, every gunner who lived because he refused to hide, every mission that succeeded because the enemy hesitated, that was Donovan's real legacy. Not 12 kills, 12,000 lives. Today, the Donovan Doctrine remains standard in modern aerial training. Fighter pilots practice early engagement. Transport gunners study intimidation tactics. Even missile defense systems follow his principle: strike first to disrupt the attack. March 6, 1944, lasted only 4 minutes. 1 tail gunner, 12 enemy fighters. The instant when defense became offense, when reaction turned into action, when a man from South Boston proved that survival doesn't come from hiding. It comes from making your enemy too afraid to pull the trigger. Michael Donovan fired 2,000 rounds, destroyed 12 aircraft, saved 3,000 lives, and changed aerial combat forever. Not because he was special, but because he refused to wait for death. He went hunting first.